Hey everybody, it's Paul reporting live from my sofa. It is Wednesday. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm sorry I have disappeared. Work called, and then I've been a little bit under the weather. So today is my day off, and I have just been lazy, to be honest. And I've been kind of not really researching, but researching for this video right here. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and so as you can see from the title, today we are talking about Gypsy Rose Blanchard, but there's a reason we are talking about it. And that reason is because Hulu, if you're familiar with that platform, I'm looking at my notes over here, so you'll have to pardon me. The Hulu is coming out March 20th. Let's see, it is called The Act. It is a 8-part series that covers the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I saw the trailer for it. There's going to be a lot of links in this description, or, to some articles, the trailer, yada yada. I have always been fascinated with this case for multiple reasons. And when I saw this coming out, I was like, wow, this looks really good. Now, it's starring Patricia Arquette and Chloe, I can never say her last name right, Savini. Though I can't say her name, I'm a big fan of hers. I love her acting and whatnot. So it looks like it's going to be good. Now it's going to be dramatized or whatever. So this is a case that just kind of if you're not familiar with it, check out the links that I'm putting in here, because it's another one of those that people were like, huh? What? Is this really happening? Truth is stranger than fiction. So let's jump into it. I'm just going to kind of go through some breakdowns of the case and whatnot and go over it. And again, see what you want to see. One aspect that fascinates me about this case and that I find interesting to talk about and whatnot is the public's perception of Gypsy, her crime, where people stand with that, the mother. Do people support, do you feel she should be, if the Gypsy should even be in jail? Do you think she should be in jail longer? So on and so forth. So here we go. So June 14th, 2015, Dee Dee Blanchard is the mother. So the mother's body, Dee Dee, was found in her bedroom. They lived in Springfield, Missouri at this point. Savage. The body covered in blood, stab wounds, whole 9 yards. She had been there for several days, and her daughter Gypsy Blanchard was missing. Now this was horrifying at the time. When people didn't, this is absolutely awful, because Gypsy was basically, famous at this point for her disabilities. She was, and I wrote some of them down here, supposedly she had suffered from cancer, muscular dystrophy, leukemia, asthma, brain damage. You name it, she had it. She was wheelchair bound. She supposedly had the middle age of a 7-year-old or so. And so when the mother's bludgeoned to death and she's missing, people were freaked out, because obviously, who does that? Takes this poor girl. And so, especially neighbors, friends, all these people, they were horrified. So it does not take long to track her down. And when she does, the scandal of the century ensues. So they find her. She is with her boyfriend, Nicholas Gojan, and she's fine. They're walking and doing all sorts of normal stuff, and she's spoke in a very little girl voice, a very childlike voice. So when people see her and they're like, that's not her, she's walking, she's talking like a normal person, she's grown up, she's not. They lied about her age. And so this truth begins to unravel from the situation, and people were like, what? So anyway, so it was the next day that they apprehended them and basically charged them with the murder of the mother. And so let's just get into this. So what was going on is her mother basically made a living off of the charade. So, and let me sit here because I always say this name wrong. The mother suffered from Munchhausen's syndrome by proxy, which is where the caretaker or the mother or father, whatever, they fake illnesses of the child or whoever's under their care to essentially get attention. And so they end up getting all these unnecessary medications, procedures, you name it. And so this is what her mother did. Her mother took it to such a degree with this case. I don't know if there's been one like it. It's just so, and especially, with the victim, Gypsy, retaliating a murder. It's crazy. So some of the stuff, I just listed off the cancer, all that kind of stuff. So hold on. Slew of medications. She had this girl in feeding tubes, unnecessary affirmations. She would even shave her unnecessary operations. She would even like shave her head to do the appearance of chemo. And you have to remember that a lot of this stuff. I mean, she was a kid, and this started from when she was young. Like when the mother got the first sign of like a legitimate thing going wrong with Gypsy, it was like she went overboard. And I guess and people who do that, I don't know if it's like a true need for attention or if they get so obsessed with, oh, something can happen that it turns into that. Like, what came first, the chicken or the egg type situation. So, was the mother somewhat normal? And then something took place with the daughter and she started to freak out and went overboard. And it's all that, oh, I get attention and I get this, that satisfied some need. I mean, I don't know. So maybe we'll get to see that aspect, that side of things. But the mother's like doctor shopping, taking the girl here, there, da 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 da. So let me just scroll down on my little thing here. So yeah, she doctor shopped. Now they lived, I guess, in obviously New Orleans or something, but basically they had to go elsewhere. That's why they moved to Missouri after Hurricane Katrina hit, and so this worked in their in their favor because the mother was able to say all of her medical records were destroyed or whatever. So once they got to Missouri, they started becoming kind of like advocates for people with disabilities and whatnot, and basically kind of became famous. And so like they got they got a house from Habitat for Humanity, numerous trips to Disney World by Make-A-Wish. I think they got tickets to Miranda Lambert's concert. Numerous things like that. And then you can imagine probably just local charities doing stuff that just constantly. I'm sure that they were on a slew of things of disability, you name it. And so I think one thing that happens, and I've watched like several documentaries on this, but I'm just kind of going off the top of my head right now. I mean, I've made some notes, but just some things that I found odd, because I guess one question is like, how do people pull, especially a scheme like this off? Like, how are you pulling the wool over on a doctor's saying that your kid's in a wheelchair? I mean, how does that even happen? Well, eventually. So, and here's this. So she would doctor shop, or not doctor shop, but just take Gypsy around to all these different doctors. And when they would start questioning her or whatever, she would essentially obviously quit seeing them and keeping them in the clear. So she would go into these situations with, no, my daughter has this. No, my daughter has this. So if you're not prone to, like, if you're just meeting these people off the street, I can see some things that you'd be like, oh, okay. And again, for the longest time, Gypsy was a kid. So you're going to do, no matter how screwed up your parents are, like, you don't really understand that when you're young. You think that they are the most amazing people in the world and they have all the answers and they can do no wrong and yada. So if your parents are telling you, you can't eat that, you can't do that, this is wrong, or like you are damaged or whatever, well, you're going to go along with it for the most part. I mean, you might be like, well, I don't feel that way, but okay, mom knows best. So, and her mother did a very good job at isolating her, keeping the charade up, yada, yada, yada. Let's continue. So at a certain point, they started to get like kind of famous in the way of like being on TV and getting some like good attention from this, or good, like a lot of exposure. And so at this point, like doctors kind of from all over the country were reaching out, to offer services, let us try and help and yada, yada, yada. Because I mean, it's a pitiful story. I mean, she came across as like this super sweet little girl. And I mean, you never want to see a child. You don't want to see anybody, of course. But especially when it's a child, afflicted with anything, let alone the slew of issues that she, supposedly had. I mean, so doctors are reaching out from all over the country. They want to get involved. They want to help. And so her mother took her to some pediatric specialist. And it was one of the first where that they were just like, something ain't right. Something's not adding up here. And basically just was like, she doesn't have any of the stuff that this woman claims that she does. Well, around this time is when Gypsy kind of started questioning her mother herself. Like, it kind of all collided or whatever. Because you got to remember, like, if Gypsy's going to be in a situation where there's going to be that point where she would have to be like, well, why are people questioning my mother? And what about this? Well, I know I can walk, but why won't mom let me? Or, so on and so forth. So, pardon me. So, all this is going on, and it kind of collides up. And this doctor starts going around and, like, putting together pieces, and it basically is one of the ones that comes to the conclusion of, look, it's not the daughter with the issues, it's the mom. So around this time or whatever, and I think this is like, the crime took place June, 2015. So I want to say it was a couple of years before that, somewhere in there, that Gypsy discovered the internet. And she was going on the internet at nighttime after her mother went to sleep and talking to men and whatnot, about, she's probably just wanted to discover love and whatnot. So, but essentially she's kind of like shopping for somebody to save her from her situation. So she eventually meets Mr. Nicholas, and let me get back to his name because I'm going to butcher it. Mr. Nicholas Godejohn. Correct me in the comments, please. So, Godejohn. He came to visit her, and apparently the mother would very rarely let her go out on her own, and I don't know if that meant around the block or something. Somehow these two hooked up sexually. Obviously, at this point, he probably knows the charade, whatever. And so, essentially, she's trying to escape. Because, like, one thing that she had said is that when her mother discovered that she was talking to men on the internet, her mom was basically like, I'll chain you to the bed and break your fingers. And, I mean, there was some definite, you're going to do this or else going on. So that's taking place. So they hook up, and you can only imagine. I mean, this girl's basically held prisoner and tortured, in my opinion, by her mother. And so she meets love for the first time, and she was ready to go. She was over it. So they start devising this plan. He goes back home. They start devising this plan as to how they are going to get rid of the mother. And so they're doing this over Facebook Messenger. I mean, it's all very naive. Now, Nicholas had been diagnosed with some mental issues. He had some kind of criminal record with, what was it? I want to say it was like sexual misconduct or something with kids, maybe. I mean, it wasn't good. But this did not slow Gypsy down. And I mean, who knows? She probably had to be so careful. I just can't imagine who she was talking to online. I'm just like, how do you even go about that? Especially if they recognize you. I mean, just like what a huge thing to, like, hey, I'm Gypsy, here's my story. So I just can't imagine. So they figure this plan out, which basically is at one night, after the mother goes to bed, she's going to let him in and he'll kill her. And so this happens, and he comes in and he bludgeons her to death. I mean, he kills her, brutally kills this woman. And Gypsy listens outside, and they flee afterwards, and we begin right back where this video started, where they're picked up like the next day. I mean, it didn't take long to catch them. So that's where you get to. So eventually, what is the outcome of it? So Gypsy, the boyfriend was charged for first-degree murder, is serving a life sentence. Gypsy was sentenced to, she was 24 years old. She was sentenced to 10 years in 2015. So she's up for parole, or how did that say that? She was sentenced to 10 years in 2000. She's eligible for parole. And 2024. So I saw a video, and maybe I can find it somewhere. I saw an interview with her in prison or whatever, and she had long hair. There was still like this childlike aspect. I mean, she did not seem like the girl that you saw in with her mother, those kind of videos where she was, seemed like somebody, that character she was playing or whatever. So it was very interesting to me because I was just like, oh wow, she's away from that influence. She definitely seems more normal. She does have this regret stuff, but she also is very much questioning this because, she's like, what I did was wrong. But, this stuck with me. She felt freer in jail than she did with her mother. And, I can see that. I can't imagine. Her mother would have eventually killed her. It's just, you can how long can you do that lie for? And so, again, then it brings up the whole question of, well, should she, be in jail? And excuse me. It's almost like these laws, and again, I'm not 100% versed in these, so feel free to drop in the comment section if you're more versed about these than I am. But when somebody, typically a woman, has an abusive husband and they kill them, and it's like you see these cases all the time, and then the woman's in jail, and it's like, okay, she was I mean, my God, he was going to kill her. That was her chance, whatever. It's one of those things. And now they're coming up with laws to where you can actually, because before I think it was like you couldn't bring that evidence into court, it couldn't weigh in for their sentence. So it was just like this woman randomly killed her husband or whatever. So now they're kind of changing that. I've seen a couple of documentaries on it, which, I mean, I'm all for that. So this to me almost seems like it falls in that category. Now granted, she got a 10-year sentence, so she also wasn't the one that did the killing. So it was kind of like this contrived, like, I mean, she orchestrated it. I don't know how much of it she really loved this guy and how much she, I mean, it was a very quick thing. How much of it she just wanted to get out, and that was her way to get out. And she saw how to do it, and got him to do it. I'm sure being away from that, I mean, one would have to question, because no matter what, I think a lot of times, again, when it's your parent that inflicts something like that, and this is all speculation on my part, because, I mean, I can't sit here and say that I understand what someone like her would feel like. I can appreciate what she said, but, I've not been in her shoes. So my opinion would be, like, I mean, if that's your parent, it's still at the end of the day your parent. What a conflicting thing to have to deal with, because, I mean, essentially your escape required, killing them. So, I mean, to me, I think 10 years is harsh. I feel like she was a victim in this case. I feel like, I feel like the timing that it happened, basically she started questioning, because another thing she says, like, she didn't know. She knew that she could walk. She said she knew she could walk. And the story behind that was, like, it was something like she fell off, something about falling off a motorcycle when she was young. And basically she went to the emergency room. The mother took her to the emergency room, and it was like, I mean, they treated her like, she's got a scraped knee, let's put a Band-Aid on. And the mother's insisting, oh my God, no, this is awful. And so it just turned into this whole thing. And basically the mother was kind of like in the situation of, I don't want her to aggravate her knee or whatever. You would have had to come up with some lie if you're trying to sit here and play it off that somebody can't walk. I mean, how long did the mother think she could do this for? I mean, someone's going to figure that out. So with the daughter, and especially like that, she hits puberty. She wants to live. And when you start being like, well, wait a minute, why do I have all this stuff going on? I mean, you're just going to question it. And so, again, it's your mother and the whole 9 yards. So, I mean, for me, I just felt like the sentence was harsh. I feel like there could have been a better way, probably. But, again, the mother, it probably brainwashed her at this point. I mean, with threats of violence and things of this nature. So I'm curious to see what angle this new it's a docu-series. It's going to be kind of like that Versace, if you watch that, where it's, it's a series played out. So it's not like a true documentary style. I mean, they have actors and stuff, obviously. So I'm curious to see what angle they take with it, like which way they're painting that. So if it's like, I mean, I haven't really seen anybody paint anything that's like, oh my God, she should be in prison for the rest of her life, the daughter, because, I mean, it was kind of a heinous way, but I'm also like, well, what was she going to do? I mean, like, honestly, sit around until she was 40 years old. I mean, they moved from town to town. I mean, what were they going to do? The mother probably would have killed her eventually with all the pills and stuff. I mean, it was just crazy. So, anyways, I just want everyone to be aware of that one. Check it out. If you haven't watched it again, resurface or you revisit the information on it, because it looks like it's going to be really good. I'm curious to hear your opinions. Like, what do you think? Do you think that the prison sentence for her was harsh, not harsh, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. So anyways, thank you all. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everyone has a good rest of your week, and we shall talk soon. Bye.